الرحمن الرحيم النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا ويوم تقوم الساعة أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب وحاجون في النار فيقول الضعفاء للذين استكبروا إنا كنا لكم تبعا فهل أنتم مغنون عنا نصيبا من النار قال الذين استكبروا إنا كل فيها إن الله قد حكم بين العباد وقال الذين في النار لخزنة جهنم ادعوا ربكم يخفف عنا يوما من العذاب قالوا أولم تك تأتيكم رسلكم بالبينات قالوا بلى قالوا فادعوا وما دعاء الكافرين إلا في ضلال صدق الله العظيم. Respected listeners, continuing the tafsir of Surah Al-Mu'min, Surah Al-Ghafir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this particular verse mentions about the punishment of the grave. It is the aqidah, the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah as Adhab al-Qabri haqqun. The punishment of the grave is true. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, لو تعلمون ما أعلم لضحكتم قليلا ولبكيتم كثيرا استعيذ بالله من عذاب القبر فإن عذاب القبر حق. That, O people, if you know what I know, then you laugh less and cry more. You laugh less and cry more. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, Ista'idhu billahi min azab al-qabr. That ask refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the punishment of the grave. فَإِنَّ عَذَابَ الْقَبْرِ حَقٌّ. Indeed, the punishment of the grave is true. It's a reality. So, in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, النَّارُ يُعْرَضُونَ عَلَيْهِ. The fire, this will be presented, the people will be presented. يُعْرَضُونَ عَرَض. Pesh kiye jayenge. They will be presented upon the fire, غُدُوًا وَعَشِيًّا. In the morning and in the evening. Ghada, the morning. Man ghada aw raha. The word ghada, raha is mentioned many times in the hadith. Who travels, who goes into the masjid in the morning, on the evening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will prepare a'addallahu nuzulahu. Allah will prepare his hospitality in Jannah, the person who frequents the masjid. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yu'raduna alayha, they will be presented upon the fire of Jahannam, wuduwan, morning and evening. Wa yawma taqumu as-sa'a, and when the final hour will be established, it will be said, adkhilu qila, it will be said, adkhilu ala fir'auna ashad al-azab, enter all the people of Fir'aun into the severe torment, severe punishment, chastisement. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning that this fire will be presented. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about when the day of judgment will happen. So obviously, before the day of judgment is the life of barzakh. As we know, there are four alams: alam arwah, alam dunya, alam barzakh, and alam akhirat. So alam arwah, the world of souls. وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ قَالُوا بَلَىٰ. That when all the ruh, when all the souls were taken out and they were presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah said, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? Each and every one of us, we said, Bala. So nobody can point a finger or make excuse that I wasn't present. That you spoke to my father, you spoke to my forefathers, but he didn't speak to myself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَن تَقُولُوا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِنَّا كُنَّا عَنْ هَذَا غَافِلِينَ. You don't say that I was oblivious about it. أو تقولوا إنما أشرك آباؤنا من قبل وكنا ذرية من بعدهم أفتهلكنا بما فعل المبتلون. Or they will say, our forefathers, they committed shirk, so we just followed them. No, each and every one will be presented, were presented there, and every one of us will say Bala. You might be saying that I can't remember. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that I still can remember the time when Allah asked that question. Sahal Tastari rahimahullah ta'ala, great saint, a sage of his age, he said that I can remember very well. I can even remember the person who was next to me. Subhanallah. So they had this amazing memory. So the point here is Alam Arwah. From Alam Arwah, after some months in the mother's womb, we came to Alam Dunya. And Alam Dunya is the Alam that we are in at this moment. And it's the most important, if you look at it in this perspective, that Alam Dunya is the place make or break. So that's why Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what did he say? Irtahalat dunya mudbira wartahalat al-akhiratu muqbila wa likulli wahidatin minhuma banun fakunu min abna'i al-akhirah wa la takunu min abna'i ad-dunya fa inna al-yawma amal wa la hisab wa ghadan hisabun wa la amal. So in this world we'll be here, we got this opportunity to carry out good deeds. There's no hisab, there's no accountability, there's no reckoning. But in the hereafter there will be accountability, there will be no opportunity of carrying out good deeds. So this is Alam Dunya. When we close our eyes, then the Alam Barzakh starts. فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. So when a person dies, like the hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, it says, Inna ahadakum idha mata, when one of you pass away, عُرِدَ عَلَيْهِ مَقْعَدُهُ غُدُوًا وَعَشِيًّا بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. Then your abode will be presented in the morning and evening. This is referring to the grave. In kana min ahli al-jannati fa min ahli al-jannah. If it's from the people of Jannah, he will be given the abode of Jannah. Like the hadith says, إِنَّمَا الْقَبْرُ رَوْضَةٌ مِّن رِيَاضِ الْجَنَّةِ أَوْ حُفْرَةٌ مِّن حُفَرِ النَّارِ. Indeed, the grave is a garden from the gardens of paradise, or is a pit from the pits of hell. So, in kana min ahli al-jannati fa min ahli al-jannah. If it's from the people of Jannah, hence he will be from the people of Jannah. وَإِن كَانَ مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ فَمِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ. And if it's from the people of Jahannam, his grave will be a pit from the pits of hell. And how long will that be? فَيُقَالُ مَقَعَدُكَ. It will be said to him, this is your abode. حَتَّى يَبْعَثَكَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلْ إِلَيْهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. This is your abode, this is your place, this is your place of waiting at this moment of time, the barzakh, the barrier, and until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrects you, raises you towards Him on the day of judgment. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَإِذَا هُمْ مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَنْسِلُونَ قَالُوا يَا وَيْلَنَا مَنْ بَعَثَنَا مِنْ مَرْقَدِنَا هَذَا مَا وَعَدَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَصَدَقَ الْمُرْسَلُونَ إِنْ كَانَتْ إِلَّا صَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً فَإِذَا هُمْ جَمِيعٌ لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ. So everyone will be taken out from the graves, and they will come on the plains of resurrection. So basically this is referring to the grave. So this ayah, the scholars of hadith, scholars of fiqh, they have mentioned this ayah is the aslul usul for establishing the punishment in the grave. That this is the main verse. Scholars have mentioned many of the verses. Allama Idris Kandalwi rahimahullah ta'ala, he was given the task with Mufti Saiful rahmatullahi alayhi to compile all the masail from the Quran, Ahkam al-Quran, by Hakim al-Ummah Mujaddid al-Mullah, Shaykh Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahimahullah ta'ala. So they compiled different chapters, they were given, allocated by Shaykh Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahimahullah ta'ala. So Surah Mu'min was given, the task was given to Mawlana Idris Kandalwi rahimahullah ta'ala. So in that, he actually, under this verse, he brings 10 verses. We're just talking about one verse. He brings 10 verses establishing the punishment in the grave. And 20 ahadith, very authentic ahadith. And ijma' ummah, then qiyas. So from everything, he actually is a proper good risala, good pamphlet, good booklet regarding the punishment of the grave. So he mentions this verse as one of the main verses. Many other verses he mentions, for example, مِمَّا خَطِئَاتِهِمْ أُغْرِقُوا فَأُدْخِلُوا نَارًا, referring to the people of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. Because of their sins, أُغْرِقُوا, they were drowned. فَأُدْخِلُوا نَارًا, and immediately after that, after the drowning, they were entered into the fire of Jahannam. فَأُدْخِلُوا, فَتَعْقِيب بِلَا تَأْخِير. So immediate, after, without any delay. So scholars have mentioned that is referring to the punishment in the grave. مِمَّا خَطِئَاتِهِمْ أُغْرِقُوا فَأُدْخِلُوا نَارًا. Then obviously after that they will be going, after on the day of judgment, after the hisab kitab, they will be going into Jahannam. Another place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سَنُعَذِّبُهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ ثُمَّ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَذَابٍ عَظِيمٍ, referring to especially the munafiqun, the hypocrites. Allah says they will soon be punished double. Then they will be taken towards the very severe punishment. So double punishment. So the scholars say one will be in the world, the battle of Badr, and then second is the punishment in the grave, Azab al-Qabr, and then the punishment of the hellfire. So these are different verses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he speaks about the people of Jannah, the Muqarrabun, and then Ashabul Yameen, then Ashabul Shimal, he mentions their reward immediately. وَأَمَّا إِنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ فَرَوْحٌ وَرَيْحَانٌ وَجَنَّةُ نَعِيمٍ وَأَمَّا إِنْ كَانَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينِ فَسَلَامٌ لَكَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينِ وَإِنْ كَانَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الشِّمَالِ فَنُزُلٌ مِنْ حَمِيمٍ وَتَصْلِيَةُ جَحِيمٍ إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُ حَقُّ الْيَقِينِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the three different types of people. So the Muqarrabun, the foreigners. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَرَوْحٌ وَرَيْحَانٌ, immediately. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about when they are leaving this world. تَرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ فَأَمَّا إِن كَانَ مِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ فَرَوْحٌ وَرَيْحَانٌ. So the ruh will be extracted, and then immediately فَرَوْحٌ وَرَيْحَانٌ وَجَنَّةُ نَعِيمٍ. So immediately fa, again ta'qib bila ta'khir. فَرَوْحٌ وَرَيْحَانٌ وَجَنَّةُ نَعِيمٍ. They will get the rahat, they will get the fragrance, they will get the blessings of Jannah. فَأَمَّا إِن كَانَ أَصْحَابُ الْيَمِينِ فَسَلَامٌ لَكَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ. So they will get salamati. So this is all referring to the life in the qabr. And so many verses, like as I mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, فَإِنَّ عَذَابَ الْقَبْرِ حَقٌّ. And another verse which was revealed regarding the grave is يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep the believers steadfast. يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ, upon the established word, لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ مُحَمَّدٌ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. At the time when he is leaving this world, when a person is about to leave this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the angels will be accompanying that person. نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. And they will say, we are your friends in this world and the hereafter. أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. Now you get the glad tidings. There's no fear and there's no grief. So they're already given the glad tidings. Obviously, that is referring to their life in the grave. So a person will be given the glad tidings because when he goes, like the hadith says, that when a person is put into the grave, after the people leave, فَيَسْمَعُ قَرْعَ نِعَالِهِمْ, he will be able to hear the footsteps and he will be able to hear the noise, the sound of the shoes and the sandals. And then حَتَّى أَتَاهُ مَلَكَانِ, two angels will come. فَيُقْعِدَانِهِ, they will make him sit down. And they will ask him, مَنْ رَبُّكَ مَا دِينُكَ مَنْ هَذَا الرَّجُلُ الَّذِي بُعِثَ إِلَيْهِ. The three questions, that who is your Lord, what is your religion, and who is this person who has been sent towards you. Person will be able to answer, أَمَّا الْمُؤْمِنِ, a believer will be able to answer, he will be straight away. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he will be told, نَمْ كَنَوْمَةِ الْعَرُوسِ. Now we can sleep like the way the dulha dulhan, the bridegroom and the bride slept the first night. So now is sleep. A person will be able to sleep peacefully. That's why إِنَّمَا الْقَبْرُ رَوْضَةٌ مِّنْ رِيَاضِ الْجَنَّةِ وَحُفْرَةٌ مِّنْ حُفَرِ النَّارِ. Whenever the sleep point comes, it always reminds me of a dream of seeing my beloved father-in-law, Mufti Talibuddin Sahib, rahmatullahi alayhi. After he passed away, I saw him in my dreams, and he was with other few pious people. So in the dream, I realized that he has passed away, and he was in Masjid al-Khadra, the masjid that he established in Oldham. So what happened was, he stood up, and I stood up to shake hands, to hug him, and I said, "How did you fare in front of Allah?" So the reply he gave, he smiled and he said, "What can I say about the life that I am in now? Wa to sona hi sona hai." He's just sleeping now. So in the dream, I thought to myself, I immediately remembered these words, "Nam kana umatil arus." And I thought to myself, "Oh, father-in-law, you deserve it. You've done your hard work. Now you can sleep." It's us who are in problems. We need to sort ourselves out. He's gone, he's happy, and he's resting, inshallah. So the point here is that we need to prepare for that day. And this grave, each and every one of us. If you can remember, last week I was mentioning about the 4 questions that was asked to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala. I mentioned the 3, I never mentioned the 4th one, and it's relevant to today's sabak. So I mentioned, أما الأول ما هو الواجب ما هو الأوجب، أما الثاني ما هو القريب ما هو الأقرب، أما الثالث ما هو العجيب ما هو الأعجب. So I said, الواجب هو طاعة الله، الأوجب هو ترك الذنوب، القريب هو يوم القيامة، الأقرب هو الموت، العجيب هو الدنيا، الأعجب حب الدنيا. And the 4th one was ما هو الصعب وما هو الأصعب منه. What is hard, what is more hard? So as-sa'bu huwa al-qabr. Hard is the grave. And wal as'abu min, what is more harder than the grave? Al-dhihabu bila zad. To go into the grave without any provision. And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala himself, he says, qillat zad. He's saying, Allah, I've got very less provision. Zadi qalil wa safari ba'id. My provision is very less, but my travel, my journey is very long. So the point here is, subhanallah, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala, he's been guaranteed Jannah so many times, and he is so worried. And we are completely oblivious, neglectful, complacent about the whole situation. So, النَّارُ يُعْرَضُونَ عَلَيْهَا غُدُوًّا وَعَشِيًّا. Let us ponder, meditate. When we bury a person, then we should be thinking to ourselves that the next after him is myself. Am I ready for that day to go into the grave? Each and every one of us, we need to ponder and meditate and contemplate and see for ourselves. Regardless of what degree you have, the question in the grave will be, Ma Rabbuka. Regardless of what degree you have on the day of judgment, the question will be, have you performed your salah? So all these degree, all these qualifications, all these positions, all these high ranks, status in this world, it won't matter. The thing which will matter is فَمَنْ زُحْزِهَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. The person who has been moved away from Jahannam and he has entered Jannah, فَقَدْ فَازَ. Indeed, he is the one who is successful. So, doing the tafsir of the Holy Quran is not just expanding our knowledge of the Quran, is what are we doing? The ma'lumat that we are getting, are we changing it, transforming it into ma'mulat? Ma'lumat ko ma'mulat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ, when judgment day will happen, أَدْخِلُوا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ أَشَدَّ الْعَذَابِ. They will enter the severe punishment. And then وَإِذْ يَتَحَاجُّونَ فِي النَّارِ, وَإِذْ يَتَحَاجُّونَ, and when they will be arguing in the fire of Jahannam. فَيَقُولُ الضُّعَفَاءُ, the weak ones will say to those people, لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا, to those people who showed arrogance, expressed arrogance, إِنَّا كُنَّا لَكُمْ تَبَعًا, indeed we who are your followers. فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُغْنُونَ? So will you be able to help us just a portion from the fire of Jahannam? In other words, you take away the punishment. It's too much for us. Allahu Akbar. On that day, the regret and the embarrassment, the shame will be so embarrassing. So regret, Yawmul Hasra. That's why the day of judgment is called Yawmul Hasra. So a person will be wanting to get all those people who took him into the wrong path. That's why one particular incident comes in my mind, the opening chapter, juz of the 19th. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about a particular disbeliever, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt. وَيَوْمَ يَعَدُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا يَا وَيْلَتَى لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. On that day, the Zalim, I referring to Uqba ibn Mu'ayt, he'll be biting his hands due to sheer regret. And he will say, I wish, لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. I wish I didn't make this Fulan, referring to Umayyah ibn Khalf. Umayyah ibn Khalf, I wish I didn't make him my friend. Because of him, لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي. He has misguided me. So, even though this verse is specifically about Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt and Umayyah ibn Khalf, but through extension, by way of extension, this refers to every person who was misguided by his friends. So on that day, they will blame each other. وَأَسَرُّوا النَّدَامَةَ لَمَّا رَأَوُا الْعَذَابَ. They will be trying to conceal the nadamat, the embarrassment, the regret. And many times they will spill it out. They will say, you did this. رَبَّنَا آتِهِمْ ضِعْفَيْنِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ إِنَّا أَطَعْنَا سَادَتَنَا وَكُبَرَاءَنَا فَأَضَلُّونَا السَّبِيلَ. We obeyed our leaders. We obeyed our seniors. They told us to miss our salah, do the campaigning. We need to pass. We need to when I become the president, you'll become my minister, and we will rule, and I will make sure that you get a lot of bribe and you become rich. This is what's happening nowadays. Allahu Akbar. Fighting for power. Allahu Akbar. We need to pray for our brothers and sisters in South Africa. The situation there is very daunting. And we don't know what's around the corner. Overnight can turn for anybody. So sad. All our Muslim brothers and sisters, businesses have been ransacked and it's been completely looted and everything destroyed, burnt, arson attacks. Within 48 hours, everything completely destroyed. Those brothers were millionaires, now they are mustahiq of zakat. They don't even have the basic necessities. They don't even have milk for the children. They don't have bread, which we take granted all the time. So we don't know obviously the day of judgment, that's what's going to happen then. But even in this world, what we are facing is very unpredictable. It's very unpredictable. So what we need to realize here is, فَيَقُولُ الضُّعَفَاء, the weak ones, in other words, the ones who followed, they will say to the followers, the leaders, that we followed, please help us. So this punishment is too much, because the fire of Jahannam is 70 times more hot than the fire of this world. So what will the disbelievers say? قَالَ الَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا. The leaders will say, قَالَ الَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا إِنَّا كُلٌّ فِيهَا. The ones who were arrogant, they expressed arrogance, they will say, indeed we are all in it. I can't help you at all. Even the shaitan will say, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِي. Allahu Akbar. So my brothers and sisters, we need to understand the situation. We can't blame the shaitan. We can't blame our nafsa ammara. We can't blame our leaders. We can't blame our parents. We can't blame our seniors. Only we have to blame ourselves, because Allah has given each and every one of us intellect to differentiate between right and wrong. So the shaitan will say, don't blame me, blame yourself. Ma ana bimusrikhikum. I did not compel you. I did not force you. I didn't oblige you to do this. Why did you do it for? So every single person will be regretting that Shaitan will be speaking in front of billions of people in Jahannam. That will be his audience in Jahannam. So, Inna Allah qad hakama bayna al-ibad. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done the judgment between the servants. So already has done the final judgment. Fariqun fil nar wa fariqun fil jannah. One group will go into Jahannam, one group will go into Jannah. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ فِي النَّارِ لِخَزَنَةِ جَهَنَّمَ. So those people who will be in the fire of Jahannam, they will say to the keepers of Jahannam, أُدْعُوا رَبَّكُمْ, pray to your Lord, يُخَفِّفْ عَنَّا, that He eases for us just one day of the punishment. Allahu Akbar. Just one day. So, يُخَفِّفْ عَنَّا يَوْمًا مِّن تَبْعِيدٍ. Not full punishment, just a bit. So, they will be saying to the keepers, and the leader of the keepers of Jahannam is called Malik. Like the way the keeper of Jannat is called Ridwan. So, in another place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَادَوْا يَا مَالِكُ لِيَقْضِ عَلَيْنَا رَبُّكَ. That they will be calling, oh Malik, please say to your Lord that He just completely destroys us. In other words, if death comes, then that's it. We're ready for that. Because now in this life that we're going through, لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا. That death is coming from each and every corner. وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ. But he will not die. وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِمْ عَذَابٌ غَلِيظٌ. Now the severe punishment is in front of him. So each and every person will be taken forward and they will be thrown into the fire of Jahannam. These people will be begging and they will be calling. Malik will not answer. Innakum makithun. After, some scholars have mentioned, after 1,000 years will say Innakum makithun, remain forever. Allahumma ajirna minan nar. Allahu Akbar. Ud'u rabbakum, pray to your Lord. Yukhaffif, khaffafa yukhaffif takhfif, just reduce the punishment, ease the punishment for us. Not the full punishment, yawman, just a day. And that day, not the full punishment of that day, just some part of it, min tab'id. So the angels will say, قَالُوا أَوَلَمْ تَكُ تَأْتِيكُمْ رُسُلُكُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. Didn't your messengers come to you with clear evidences? All the messengers came with miracles. Salih alayhi salatu wasalam came, you wanted to see a she-camel, we put that forward. Each and every one of you, you wanted to see the moon split into two, you saw that as well. اقتربت ساعة وانشق القمر. So why didn't you accept? The clear evidences came. قالوا بلى. So they will say, why not? Indeed. قالوا فادعوا. So they will say, so just call your Lord. Just continue calling. But what is going to happen? وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. The supplication of the disbelievers will be nothing but in destruction. Dalal, at loss. Because du'as of the disbeliever will not be accepted. We need to know this mas'ala, that a person, whilst he is alive, obviously we should pray for our Muslim brothers and sisters all the time. For a disbeliever who is still alive, we can pray for his hidayah. Allah give them guidance. Whether it's our relatives, friends, workmates, neighbors, whoever they are, we can pray for them for the guidance. But once they have died upon misguidance, once they have died upon kufr, then there is no permissibility of doing dua for them. That Allah give them Jannah, Allah forgive them. We can go to the relatives and do ta'ziyat in that way. We hope God gives you patience and things like that. But we can't say, may God forgive him or forgive her, because forgiveness is only for a believer. So this is a very important point to remember. So a disbeliever in this world, if he accepts Iman, his Iman is accepted, and then dua can be accepted as well. But when he leaves this world, when he closes his eyes, dua not accepted. And we cannot do dua for those people who have died upon kufr. So a person cannot do dua for Fir'aun, for Abu Jahl, for Abu Lahab, for Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, for As ibn Wa'il, for Walid ibn Mughira. So these people have died upon kufr and they are nas, from nas qat'i, from clear text. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you made a mockery of the deen. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in end of Surah Zumar, he mentions وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ زُمَرًا. The disbelievers will be dragged towards Jahannam. حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوهَا فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا وَقَالَ لَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ رُسُلٌ مِّنكُمْ يَتْلُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِ رَبِّكُمْ وَيُنذِرُونَكُمْ لِقَاءَ يَوْمِكُمْ هَٰذَا قَالُوا بَلَىٰ وَلَٰكِنْ حَقَّتْ كَلِمَةُ الْعَذَابِ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. They will, every place is where Allah subhanahu mentions that the angels will be speaking and they will say, didn't warners come? They will say, yes, warners did come. But وَلَٰكِنْ حَقَّتْ كَلِمَةُ الْعَذَابِ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ قِيلَ ادْخُلُوا أَبْوَابَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا فَبِئْسَ مَثْوَى الْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ. Then the point here is something for us to understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. So the word siqa has been used for the people of Jannah as well. For the people of Jahannam has been used that they will be dragged into Jahannam, and the people of Jannah will be dragged into Jannah. So the question arises, what does that mean? So if you understand, for example, a person, he's a guilty person, he has committed theft, he's committed murder. So this person is being dragged by the police. So that dragging is something else. You're coming to your best friend's house. So they are dragging you to their house. So that dragging is something else. So the people will be going to Jannah, the angels will be dragging them. Come quickly. Just wait to see what you're going to be seeing in Jannah. So just come quickly. All these blessings, all these boons, all these bounties, ni'mah, they're all waiting for you. So they will be pulling him, dragging him. Just come quickly. You're not walking too fast. You need to go. Come quickly. So وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. Subhanallah. So the point here is, my brothers, my sisters, that the lesson we get from today's Tafsir is that the punishment of the grave is reality, is true, and this life in the qabr, the Prophet ﷺ, he said this is the first manzil. And that's why Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said he used to cry the most when he used to be in the graveyard. So people asked him that, why do you cry so much? You don't cry when Jannat and Jahannam is being mentioned, but when the grave is being mentioned, when you go into the graveyard, you're crying. The Prophet ﷺ used to cry so much, sometimes his beard used to be wet and then the drops of tears used to be fallen onto the ground. That's how much he used to tear, he used to cry. So sobbed so much. So Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu used to cry so much and used to say, because this is the first manzil, if this stage is easy, then the rest of the stages will be easy. But we have to be ready for that stage. We have to be able to answer those questions. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he heard about all this, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will our intellect be intact? Will we be understanding the situation? Because your intellect will be even better than now. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he said, inshallah ta'ala, then it will be no problem. So Umar radiallahu could say this because he was ready. But we ourselves, we have to ask these questions, and we will not be like a parrot fashion, or we're going to memorize it and we're going to say it. No. Those people who haven't lived a life according to Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will not be able to answer. They will say, la adri, I don't know. So the angels will be striking them with hammers and will say, la daraita wa la talaita. La daraita wa la talaita. So neither did you know, neither did you follow. La daraita. You should have known. And if you didn't know, you should have followed those people who know about it. The scholars of fiqh mention from this, you can also get the masla of taqleed. Either you become a mujtahid, la daraita, you know yourself, or la talaita, or you follow. Two things, there's no third. So if you can't be a mujtahid this day and age, you can't just be a mujtahid like this, just by knowing English translation of the Quran. So you have to do talaita. Tala means to follow. So amazing our scholars how they deduce masail. So from this, the last thing that we'll be thinking about taqlid from the angels, what they will say, la daraita wa la talaita, they will take this masla out. It's just amazing, subhanallah. So I was saying that we need to make the preparations before the regret. وَأَنذِرْهُمْ يَوْمَ الْحَسْرَةِ. So warn them regarding the day of hasra, the day of regret. And that's the day, obviously, on the day of judgment. But before that, the life in the grave. The life in the grave. Everything will come to a standstill. Everything will cease. Our good deeds will cease. We have to visualize the reward. Like these are the days of Zul Hijjah. So if we visualize the reward, each day fast is equal to 1 year of fasting. How many brothers are fasting today? This is one brother. And we think to ourselves, mashallah. So a person, just imagine, take the same scenario, and you are told by your employer that you work 1 day and you get the wage for the full year. Leave alone full year, just 2 days, they will pay. We have to visualize, we have to understand the reward. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا. Who is more truthful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What he said is surely going to give. So what is going to happen on the day of judgment, when the Faisala, the judgment will be done, when we go into Jannah, Allah will tell us that this is for this fasting that you did, this is the building that you got, this charity that you gave, this is the gardens that you got. So for every single deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you. Udkhulul jannata bima kuntum ta'malun. So scholars have mentioned that every deed, there is something tangible in the hereafter, in Jannah. So every single thing. That's why he says even the du'as that we made, they will be coming in the form of solids and tangible things on the day of judgment as a reward. And that person says, what is all this? Because all the du'as that you did, and you thought the du'as are not accepted, but we stored it for you. So at that time you say, I wish there was no du'as accepted, all the du'as were kept for me now. So my brothers, my sisters, we need to put it into practice. As I mentioned, ma'lumat ko ma'amulat bana. And don't wait for tomorrow. Iyaka wa tasweef. Save yourself from procrastination. But I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow is a Thursday, it's Zul Hijjah. The fast of Zul Hijjah is so blessed. And then plus is the weekly fast Monday and Thursday, which our beloved Prophet ﷺ kept. Keep it. Obviously, you'll go through a bit of thirst, a bit of hunger. These things are as sawabu bi qadri al-mushaqqa. Sawab is according to the effort and according to the mushaqqa, according to the difficulty that you go through. So make that habit. And when you have a habit, when you are a student, these habits will be enduring. They will remain with you till your last breath. And then subhanallah, when a person إِذَا مَرِضَ الْعَبْدُ أَوْ سَافَرَ كُتِبَ لَهُ مِثْلُ مَا عَمِلَ صَحِيحًا مُقِيمًا. So when a person, he becomes ill or he travels, so he will be given the reward same if he couldn't keep fast or he couldn't perform his tahajjud, like the way when he was a resident, when he was in the good state, when he was healthy. So this is a wholesome pension by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll give it to those people who in the young age, when the youth, they practice the deen, they acted upon all the sunnahs, they fulfilled all the criteria, and they will be the ones who are the successful one. So we'll conclude the tafsir here. Inshallah ta'ala, our tafsir will continue after the holidays now. So we got 1 week holidays next week, then we got exams. So hopefully after the next few weeks, there will be a few weeks break, and then we'll resume the tafsir inshallah ta'ala. اللهم آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا وأكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا وأرضنا وارض عنا يا رب العالمين. ربنا تقبل منا صلاتنا وصيامنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا وتلاوة قرآننا بفضلك وكرمك وجودك ومنك يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة، وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.